The clatter of rolling suitcases in Phoenix Sky Harbor's Terminal B was a drumline of judgment, and I was falling out of step. Faster, Ryan, my father snapped. You're holding up the line. I stepped aside, my jaw tight. My stepsister, Chloe, glided past, her designer carry-on immaculate. The smile she wore was the kind reserved for winning a game I never wanted to play. Her heels clicked on the polished floor like a countdown. Maybe he's just nervous, Dad, she said, her voice loud enough for the nearest strangers to enjoy. It's probably his first time this close to a real plane. My father, Daniel Carter, let out a short, dry chuckle. He can't afford economy, Chloe. Let's not expect him to grasp the finer points of airport logistics. Laughter followed. Heads turned. A hot flush of shame burned my face. I adjusted the worn strap of my backpack and stared through the terminal glass at jets basking in the Arizona sun. They were flying first class to Chicago for a family business dinner, an event I was invited to by obligation, not welcome. Chloe waved her boarding pass like a victory flag. First class is boarding, Daddy. Time for champagne. Enjoy it, I said, my voice flat. She rolled her eyes. Don't be so bitter, Ryan. Some of us just make better choices. That line landed like a shard of glass. Her better choice was accepting the project I'd poured my life into for 2 years, right after my father handed it to her. They took the stage. I took the stairs to the exit. Do us a favor, my father added, leaning in so only I could hear. Try not to embarrass the family name. People talk. People always talk, I replied, meeting his gaze. It's what they say later that matters. The gate agent called their group. They laughed as they drifted toward the jet bridge, leaving me in their wake. Just as their silhouettes vanished, a shadow fell across the floor in front of me. Polished boots. A crisp Navy uniform. Mr. Carter? The pilot asked. Yes. Your jet is ready, sir. We can begin pre-flight whenever you are. Behind me, a woman gasped. Further up the concourse, I saw my father freeze mid-stride. A quiet satisfaction, sharp and clean, settled over me. The captain, noting the confusion, added with unwavering respect, Mr. Carter owns the aircraft. Chloe's perfectly made-up mouth fell open. A couple dragging their own suitcases stopped just to stare. My father turned, his motion slow and stiff, as if his neck had rusted into place. You were right, Dad, I said, my voice calm and clear enough to carry. I can't afford economy. It's too small for me now. I followed the captain through a restricted door and out into the brilliant sunshine of the tarmac. A black SUV idled by the gate, and just beyond it, a white jet gleamed like a freshly written promise. Inside the cabin, the air smelled of rich espresso and polished leather. I sank into a wide cream seat as the door sealed, shutting out the noise and the judgment of the terminal. It was a long way from the night I walked out of Carter & Sons. That boardroom is still branded into my memory. The stuffy air, the effortless way my father passed my life's work to Chloe as if I were a ghost at the table, and the casual cruelty of the word assist meant to keep me in my place. A decade of my life, a modular supply plan I'd designed from scratch, all of it dismissed for what he called Chloe's fresh energy. I left with $12,000, a used car, and a laptop that would overheat if I asked it to think too hard. I found a small apartment in Tempe and began to build the system I saw in my head, an AI-driven logistics platform to kill the waste and inefficiency in construction supply chains. Investors laughed. The banks said no. I sold my car and learned to stretch a dollar until it screamed. Days blurred into keystrokes and the hum of a fan fighting a losing battle with the Arizona heat. Friends from my old life offered hollow advice. Just go back, Ryan. It's not worth this. But with every line of code, the system grew stronger. I wasn't just writing software. I was meticulously crafting my escape. There was a defiant satisfaction in solving a stubborn routing problem, a quiet validation that held the loneliness at bay. Then, small vendors started signing up. A regional distributor tested it and cut delays by 18%. Word spread. The contracts followed. I stopped asking for permission and started building. As the jet door sealed, my phone buzzed. Dad's name glowed on the screen. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. What kind of stunt is this? He demanded. No stunt, I said. Just business. You don't own a private jet. Apparently, I do. You're being ridiculous, he snapped. You had a future here. You could have stayed and assist Chloe while she ran my project into the ground? No, thank you. I promoted her because she understands presentation. I built function, I shot back. You chose a slideshow. A tense silence filled the line. You want to know what really hurt? I added, my voice low. You didn't even look me in the eye when you did it. He inhaled sharply. Listen, you're the one who left. You can't blame us for moving on. I don't blame you, I said, and I meant it. I thank you. I ended the call. A moment later, Captain Brooks appeared in the aisle. Your itinerary, sir. Touchdown at Chicago Midway in 2 hours and 15 minutes. You're scheduled for a pre-summit briefing at 5 p.m. and the main stage at 7 p.m. I nodded, taking the folder. My company, North Star Logic, was the headline sponsor of the event. 2 years ago, I was eating ramen in a tiny apartment. Now, an entire innovation forum wore my logo. As the jet began to taxi, I glanced out the window. I saw a figure standing at the terminal glass, my father, still staring. For a moment, he didn't look like the titan who had dismissed me. He looked small, like a man who had just realized his map was wrong. I closed my eyes as the engines roared. The runway fell away, and we climbed into the clean, empty blue. There's a unique quiet that comes just after takeoff, as if the ground isn't the only weight you've left behind. The anger and the doubt feel further away. Not gone, but distant. I stared at the clouds, the memories of the struggle still vivid. Nights spent coding until my eyes burned. The month my fridge held nothing but a carton of eggs and mustard. I remember standing in the cold light of that empty fridge, asking the silence, is this worth it? Or am I just trying to prove something to a man who refuses to see me? Money was a problem, but the silence was a verdict. Friends drifted away. Old colleagues, choosing comfort, advised me to be realistic. Then I'd see a picture Chloe posted from a gala. Grateful to lead, excited to build. I bit back the urge to comment, you're building with my bricks, and took another contract instead. But beneath the noise of my own doubt, a steady voice remained. Keep going. Not for them. For the love of what you're making. That was the anchor. Since I was a kid tearing apart radios, this was my language. My father saw it as tinkering. For me, it was the only thing that was real. Staring into that empty fridge, the question wasn't just rhetorical. It was a test of my very foundation. Was I building to impress him, or to fulfill the drive inside me? The answer, forged in solitude, was the latter. My work had become a voice that no longer needed anyone's permission to sing. I rubbed my eyes as my phone buzzed with an unknown Chicago number. I let it go to voicemail, taking a slow breath. The anger wasn't gone, but it had softened. It was a tool now, not a cage. We touched down at Chicago Midway as the afternoon sun began to dip. A chilled wind cut across the ramp. Clean, sharp, honest. My assistant, Megan, was waiting in the SUV. Welcome to Chicago, boss, she said, not looking up from her tablet. You're trending. Someone filmed the captain greeting you at the gate. I groaned. Great, great, she repeated with a grin, glancing at her tablet. The summit team just sent their metrics. That video caused a significant boost in last-minute attendance. Also, the keynote press room is at capacity. Guest list? I asked. She swiped a finger across the screen. Daniel and Chloe Carter. Front row confirmations. They added 2 more from Carter and Sons. Of course. Never waste a spotlight. Downtown, banners for the Midwest Innovation Forum hung from the streetlights. My North Star Logic logo printed on them in white on deep blue. It felt like an inside joke with myself. At the venue, cameras flashed. Mr. Carter, a reporter called out. Is it true you acquired the forum this year? I let the question hang in the air. I like owning the rooms that used to keep me in the hallway, I said. So yes. Inside, I shook hands and answered a few questions. A junior developer stopped me by the escalator. Sir, your open source module saved my capstone project. The genuine gratitude on his face was a small, warm victory that fueled the parts of myself I wanted to preserve. Backstage, a staffer clipped a mic to my lapel. 5 minutes, Mr. Carter. A message lit up my phone. Carter and Sons, funding request update. Megan was already there. Their proposal is in our queue, she said. Want me to slate it for the Q&A? I nodded. Make it third. 1 victory down. The main event was next. Pride is a masterful illusionist. It builds a solid road that ends in a cliff, and you don't realize you're out of ground until your feet are treading on air. The stage lights hit me like a sudden sunrise. Please welcome the keynote sponsor and CEO of Northstar Logic, Ryan Carter. Applause washed over the auditorium, a wave of sound I felt in my chest. In the center of it all, front row, were my father in his immaculate navy blazer and Chloe in a sleek black dress. They held programs in their hands, sitting like judges at a trial I hadn't agreed to. Good evening. I began, my voice steady in the quiet. 2 years ago, I couldn't have afforded a ticket to this conference. Tonight, I'm sponsoring it. Not through magic, but through honesty. I gave them the condensed version, the sweltering apartment, the overheating laptop, and the algorithm that slowly, painstakingly, learned to be right. Humiliation can be a powerful teacher, I said, and a knowing chuckle rippled through the crowd. If you're willing to take the class. I let my gaze find my father. I was once told I didn't belong in rooms like this. It turns out, you just have to build your own door. The applause that followed was different. It was real, not the polite clapping of charity. During the Q&A, we funded 2 brilliant startups. Then Megan cued the third slide. The Carter & Sons logo filled the screen, stark and familiar. A murmur went through the room. My father sat bolt upright. Chloe's arms folded into a defensive knot. Our third applicant, I said, keeping my voice level, seeks capital for a modular housing initiative. My words, my charts, my plan. I looked past the stage lights, into the unblinking eye of a camera. Northstar invests in those who build the future. We don't fund those who had the chance to believe in it when it cost them nothing and chose to walk away. The silence that followed was a physical blow. A single camera shutter clicked, a sound as sharp as a snapping bone. We decline, I said. And in that moment, as the word landed, the vertigo I felt wasn't for them. It was mine. It was the feeling of stepping off the cliff of needing their approval to feel whole. The reception was a galaxy of orbiting conversations. I moved through it, my heart beating a faster rhythm than my thoughts. Megan met me near the bar with a glass of water. Are you okay? I will be. You did the right thing, she said, her voice low. They were trying to sell your own blueprint back to you. I know. She nodded toward a quiet hallway. He's waiting for you. I found my father standing by a tall window, the Chicago skyline glittering behind him. He studied the city lights as if they held an answer he'd lost. I spoke first. You used my plan. He exhaled, a slow, tired sound. We adapted it. That 4-stage ramp-up slide? I drew that on my kitchen table at 2 in the morning, under a flickering bulb. He finally turned to me, his face etched with something I hadn't seen before. You left, he said, the old justification worn thin. You replaced me before I even had my keys. It was a business decision, he insisted. You were always lost in the wiring. I needed presentation, someone who could smile for the investors. You needed someone who wouldn't challenge you when you took the credit. He flinched. A small, almost imperceptible motion, but I saw it. I was wrong, he said, the words quiet, almost swallowed by the cavernous hallway. It doesn't fix anything, but I'm saying it. The admission didn't wash away the past, but it was like the first drops of rain on parched ground. The tension in my hands eased. For the first time, I saw not just a stubborn executive, but a man wrestling with the map he'd drawn for his own life. I kept telling myself, he said, his voice strained, that when you succeeded, you'd come home. I shook my head. I built a new one. A fragile peace settled between us. I realized the public rejection on stage wasn't my revenge. The true victory had happened quietly, over months of lonely work. It was the moment I no longer needed him to change. I forgive you, I said, the words feeling heavy and clean. Not for you. For me. I'm done carrying it. He swallowed hard. I deserved worse. Maybe, I said, turning to leave. But I'm building better. Back in the ballroom, I promised the supplier a tour and took a photo with a robotics team using my code. The confidence I wore no longer felt like a costume. It was a part of me. Megan appeared at my elbow. Your pilot called. A storm's moving in. He thinks leaving sooner is better. Let's make a quiet exit, I said. But quiet wasn't an option. Chloe intercepted us by the door, her expression a mask of fury. You humiliated us. You submitted my work, hoping I wouldn't notice. It was a gesture, she snapped. We were going to bring you in. You can't bring me into a house I designed. I saw a flicker of desperation in her eyes, the fear that her position was built on a stolen foundation. Her laugh was brittle. You think you've won. You're still just the little boy who needed a private jet to feel tall. The old sting was there, a ghost of 1,000 similar cuts. But it had no power now. I leaned in, my voice just for her. The jet doesn't make me tall, Chloe. It just makes me visible to people who refuse to look down. I walked away, leaving her in the doorway. Revenge isn't about winning arguments. It's about achieving an altitude where they can no longer reach you. The Chicago air was cold and sharp. In the SUV, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I answered. A broker from Lakefront Capital. Carter & Sons was already seeking emergency funding. They'd like to discuss terms, he said. They already did, I replied, and ended the call. At the private terminal, the jet gleamed under the ramp lights like a clean sheet of paper. I paused on the stairs, looking back at the city. This wasn't just revenge. It was a market correction. Buckled in aboard the jet, my phone lit up with a text from my father. How did you do it? It wasn't an accusation. It was a question. I stopped waiting for permission. I typed back. I just started solving the problems in front of me. His reply was almost instant. We're not okay, are we? I thought for a moment. No, but we're not broken, either. I put the phone down as the captain's voice came over the intercom. The engines spooled up, and the city lights blurred into golden threads. As we climbed through the dark, the plane shuddered once, finding its way through the turbulence, and then settled into a smooth, powerful ascent. Something in my chest unhooked. The victory wasn't in them finally seeing me. It was in me finally seeing myself without needing their reflection. The sun was rising over the mountains when we descended into Phoenix. The desert doesn't need applause to exist. It's just strong, honest, and there. I like that. At the office, a new hire held the door for me. Sir, he stammered, that talk last night. I sent it to my dad. He finally gets what I do. In my office, an email was waiting. No subject line. It was from my father. I've enrolled Chloe in your online routing course. She'll pass it, or she'll step down. Time to stop buying shortcuts. The old me would have replied, too late. The man I was becoming typed something else. Good. Here's the link. When she passes, she can have a spot on the Indiana plant tour. For her education, not the company. I hit send and walked to the window. The sun was sharp, the city was moving, and there was work to be done. Good work. Honest work. People think revenge is a bridge in flames. Sometimes it's a runway, long, clear, and built to carry you forward. You don't fly to get above anyone else. You fly to get clear. The best answer to those who say you don't belong is to build something they can't ignore. Results are a language everyone understands. And if they ask how it feels to rise, tell them the truth. The most important goodbyes are never spoken. They're measured in altitude. Thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel.